3 weeks after the battle, something strange happened. The galaxy went quiet. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant, staring at communication displays that showed almost nothing. The constant chatter of alien voices that had filled space for thousands of years had simply stopped. Trade routes that carried goods between 100 worlds sat empty. Even emergency broadcasts had faded to silence. "This does not make sense," Dr. Susan Martinez said from her science station. She had been monitoring galactic communications around the clock, but for the past 5 days, her screens showed only static. Entire civilizations do not just stop talking to each other. Chief Petty Officer Danny Park tried every frequency he could think of, searching for any sign of alien activity. "Ma'am, it is like everyone in the galaxy decided to unplug their radios at the same time. I am not even picking up navigation beacons or automated distress signals." Admiral Lisa Brooks studied the tactical display, which showed empty space where busy shipping lanes used to be. Maybe they are all preparing for war. Radio silence would make sense if every species is getting ready to attack their neighbors. But Jake had a different feeling about the silence. It reminded him of something from his childhood, the way his neighborhood got quiet right before a big storm hit. Animals stopped singing, people went inside, and the whole world seemed to hold its breath. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres looked up from his weapons station with a puzzled expression. "Sir, this is really weird. My long-range sensors are not detecting any fleet movements anywhere. A few days ago, I was tracking dozens of military formations. Now nothing." Dr. Martinez made a discovery that sent chills down Jake's spine. "Captain, I found something. The computer has been analyzing the last communications we intercepted before the silence started. I think I know what happened." She put her findings on the main screen, showing fragments of alien messages that the ship's computer had translated. Jake read the words with growing amazement and horror. "Emergency session of the Vorthen Collective. Motion to withdraw all ships to home systems immediately. Serpentine High Command orders all fleets to defensive positions. Cancel all offensive operations. Aquatic Federation declares neutrality in all current conflicts. All ships return to base. Trilarian Mining Guild suspends all operations in disputed territories." Susan looked around the bridge with wide eyes. Every major power in the galaxy made the same decision at almost the same time. They all pulled back to their home worlds and stopped fighting. "But why?" Admiral Brooks asked. They were ready to tear each other apart just a few weeks ago. Chief Engineer Tony Wallace's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, I might have an answer to that. I have been analyzing the energy signatures from our weapons during the battle with General Krex. Our railguns and fusion missiles put out readings that no one in this galaxy has ever seen before." Jake felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together. In his mind, "Tony, are you saying they are afraid of us?" "Not just afraid, sir. Terrified. Think about it from their point of view. A species they never heard of shows up with technology that makes their best weapons look like toys. Every government in the galaxy is probably asking the same question. How many more humans are out there?" Dr. Martinez nodded as understanding dawned on her face. "They do not know that Earth only built one starship. For all they know, we have thousands of vessels just like the Valiant, and this was just our scout ship." Danny suddenly straightened at his communications post. "Sir, I am picking up a transmission. It is very faint, but it is definitely artificial." "Put it on speakers," Jake ordered. A weak voice came through the static, speaking in accented English that the computer had learned to recognize as Vorthen. "Unknown human vessel. This is Ambassador Vex of the Crystal Collective. We request permission to approach under a flag of truce." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. After weeks of silence, someone finally wanted to talk. "Danny, send a response." Tell Ambassador Vex that he may approach, but slowly and with weapons powered down. An hour later, a small Vorthan ship appeared on their sensors. It was beautiful, made of what looked like living crystal that caught and reflected light in rainbow patterns. The ship was clearly unarmed, built for diplomacy rather than war. Ambassador Vex appeared on the main screen as a tall, thin being made of what looked like blue-green crystal. His voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Captain Morrison, I come with a message from the Galactic Council." "I was not aware there was a Galactic Council," Jake replied carefully. "There was not until 3 days ago," Vex admitted. "The major powers created it specifically to deal with the human situation. We represent 47 different species, all of whom have the same question. What do humans want?" Jake thought about that question for a long moment. What did humans want? They had come to the stars hoping for friendship, knowledge, and trade. Instead, they had found slavery, threats, and war. "Ambassador, we want what we have always wanted: to live in peace, to learn from other species, and to trade freely. We do not want to rule anyone or be ruled by anyone." Vex seemed to consider this carefully. "And if other species attack human worlds or threaten human ships, then we will defend ourselves," Jake said simply, "just as we did with General Krex." The crystal being was quiet for several minutes. When he spoke again, his musical voice carried a note of relief. "Captain, the Galactic Council has prepared a proposal. We offer humanity full membership in a new galactic government, one based on cooperation rather than domination. In exchange, we ask that humans share some of their defensive technology." To help maintain peace, Admiral Brooks stepped forward. "What about the species that were enslaved by the old powers? What happens to them?" "They will also be offered full membership," Vex replied immediately. "The age of client races and slave worlds is over. Your victory over the Dominion proved that the old ways no longer work." Dr. Martinez looked amazed. "You are offering to completely restructure galactic civilization?" "We have no choice," Vex said honestly. Every government analyst reached the same conclusion. Humans are too powerful to fight and too few to ignore. The only logical option is to make friends with you and hope you are as peaceful as you claim to be. Jake realized that the galaxy's silence had not been preparation for war. It had been preparation for peace. Every species had gone quiet while their leaders figured out how to deal with a new reality where force alone could not guarantee survival. "Ambassador Vex, I need to discuss this with my crew and contact Earth for instructions. Can you give us some time?" "Of course, Captain. The Council has waited this long to contact you. We can wait a little longer for your answer." After the transmission ended, Jake looked around his bridge at the people who had helped him navigate humanity's first contact with alien life. They had come to the stars as explorers and accidentally become the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "Well, Admiral," Brooks said with a smile, "this is not how I expected our mission to end." Torres laughed from his weapons station. "Sir, we scared an entire galaxy into becoming peaceful. That has to be some kind of record." Dr. Martinez was already preparing reports for Earth, her scientific mind excited by the possibilities. "Captain, think about what we could learn from 47 different species. The advances in science, medicine, and technology could change everything." Jake nodded, feeling hopeful for the first time since they had left Earth. "Danny, prepare a message. To Earth Command. Tell them that first contact was complicated, but it worked out better than anyone could have expected." He paused, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so alien or threatening. "Also tell them that when we come home, we will not be coming alone. The galaxy wants to meet humanity, and this time they are coming as friends." The silence that had fallen over the galaxy was not the silence of fear or preparation for war. It was the silence of a universe holding its breath, waiting to see what kind of future humans and aliens could build together. For the first time in galactic history, that future looked bright. News of the Dominion fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than the ships that had fled the battle. Within hours, every major species knew that something impossible had happened. A primitive race had not only survived contact with the mighty hegemony, but had destroyed or damaged 25 of their warships. On the water world of Aquaria, the fish-like Nautilians received the news while floating in their crystal cities beneath the waves. Elder Coral, oldest of their kind, spoke to the assembled council through vibrations in the water. For 3,000 years, we have paid tribute to the Dominion because their fleet was unbeatable. If these humans can defeat them, what does this mean for us? Across the galaxy on the desert planet Zerion, the insect-like skitters clicked their mandibles in excited discussion. Queen Buzz, ruler of their hive cities, studied the battle recordings that General Krex had transmitted before fleeing. Look, how their weapons cut through Dominion shields like they are made of nothing. These humans use different science than the rest of us. Even the proud Vorthan Collective, masters of crystal technology and energy manipulation, held emergency meetings in their singing cities. Ambassador Vex, their greatest diplomat, analyzed the human weapon signatures with growing amazement. Their railguns accelerate metal to speeds we thought impossible. Their fusion weapons create miniature stars. This changes everything we know about galactic power. Meanwhile, aboard the Valiant, Captain Jake Morrison and his crew tried to understand what their victory meant. Dr. Susan Martinez worked around the clock with the ship's computer, decoding alien communications that flooded the airwaves. "Captain, you need to see this," Susan called from her science station. Her dark eyes were wide with worry as she displayed her findings on the main screen. "The galaxy is going crazy. I am picking up emergency broadcasts from dozens of worlds." Jake studied the translation that scrolled across the screen. Reports of riots on hegemony colony worlds. Emergency fleet movements by 3 different empires. Trade routes shutting down as species recalled their merchant ships. Admiral Lisa Brooks joined them at the science station. "What are we looking at, Susan?" "A complete breakdown of galactic order," Susan replied grimly. The defeat of General Krex did not just hurt the Dominion. It broke something fundamental about how this galaxy works. Chief Petty Officer Danny Park looked up from his communications post. "Sir, I am intercepting military communications from the Serpentine Empire. They are mobilizing their entire fleet and recalling all diplomats from other worlds." "Lieutenant." Commander Ryan Torres frowned as he studied his tactical readings. "Captain, I am seeing massive energy signatures throughout this sector. It looks like every major power is preparing for war, but not with us. They are getting ready to fight each other." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach as he began to understand what was happening. "Susan, explain it to me like I am 5 years old. What did we break?" Dr. Martinez took a deep breath and organized her thoughts. For thousands of years, galactic civilization has been stable because everyone believed the same thing. The strongest species ruled, and weaker species served them. It was brutal, but it worked because everyone knew their place. She pointed to the alien communications scrolling across her screen. "When we destroyed those Dominion ships, we proved that strength is not always what it appears to be. If humans can beat the hegemony with primitive-looking technology, then maybe other weak species are not as helpless as everyone thought." Admiral Brooks understood immediately. "We started a revolution without meaning to." "Exactly," Susan continued. "Slave races across the galaxy are asking themselves why they serve masters who might not be as powerful as they pretended. The ruling species are panicking because their authority came from fear, not respect." Danny interrupted with an urgent report. Sir, I am picking up a distress signal from a nearby system. It sounds like a rebellion is happening on one of the hegemony colony worlds. Jake moved to the communication station and listened to the translated message. The voices were desperate, filled with hope and fear in equal measure. People of the galaxy, this is the free world of Kepler 438b. We have declared independence from hegemony rule. If humans can fight them and win, so can we. We call on all enslaved peoples to rise up and claim their freedom. Within minutes, similar broadcasts began coming from other worlds. The Trilarian miners on asteroid belt stations stopped sending resources to their Vorthan overlords. The Gentle Harmony people refused to provide their telepathic services to Serpentine commanders. Dozens of species that had served as client races for centuries suddenly remembered what it meant to be free. Chief Engineer Tony Wallace contacted the bridge from the engine room. Captain, our long-range sensors are detecting major fleet movements all across this sector. It looks like the Vorthan Collective is mobilizing against the Serpentine Empire. The Aquatic Federation is moving ships toward former Dominion territory. Jake realized with growing horror that they had accidentally triggered the collapse of galactic civilization. How many people are going to die because of what we did? Dr. Martinez studied the communications intercepts with the dedication of a scientist trying to solve an impossible equation. The established powers are not just fighting rebellions on their own worlds. They are also moving against each other. Everyone thinks this is their chance to grab territory while their enemies are weak. Torres pulled up tactical displays showing fleet movements across dozens of star systems. Sir, this is not just unrest. This is the beginning of a galactic civil war. Every major power is choosing sides or trying to stay neutral until they can see who wins. Admiral Brooks placed her hand on Jake's shoulder. The question is, what do we do about it? Before Jake could answer, Danny received an urgent transmission that made everyone on the bridge freeze. Captain, we are getting a message from Earth. Command wants to know our status and when we plan to return. Jake stared at the message from home, knowing that Earth had no idea what was happening out here. Humanity's first contact with aliens had turned into the spark that set the galaxy on fire. Earth expected them to return with news of peaceful trade and cultural exchange. Instead, they would bring word of a universe at war. Sir, Torres said quietly, there is something else. My sensors are picking up ships moving toward Earth's location. Not toward us, but following our trail back to our home system. The blood drained from Jake's face. What kind of ships? Mixed fleet. Some Vorthan crystals, some Serpentine bioships, and what looks like independent merchants. They are not working together, but they are all heading in the same direction. Dr. Martinez checked her star charts and confirmed Jake's worst fears. Captain, if they follow our hyperspace trail, they will reach Earth in approximately 6 months. Jake Morrison stood in the center of his bridge and felt the weight of an entire species on his shoulders. They had come to the stars seeking friends and knowledge. Instead, they had shattered an ancient order and accidentally invited a galaxy. At war to humanity's doorstep. Danny, prepare a message to Earth Command. Tell them to begin immediate construction of defense platforms and additional warships. Tell them that first contact did not go as planned. He paused, looking around at his crew, good people who had volunteered for what they thought would be a peaceful exploration mission. Also tell them that the Valiant is staying out here. Someone needs to monitor the situation and try to protect Earth from what is coming. Admiral Brooks nodded grimly. Jake, we came out here to represent humanity. Looks like we are going to do exactly that, just not the way we planned. Outside the viewports, the stars looked the same as always, but Jake knew that everything had changed. The galaxy was tearing itself apart, and Earth was about to discover that it was no longer alone in a universe that had suddenly become very dangerous. The first plasma bolt came from General Krex's flagship. A beam of green energy as thick as a building shot through space toward the Valiant. On the bridge, alarms screamed as the attack approached at the speed of light. "Incoming fire," Torres shouted from his weapons station. Impact in 3 seconds. Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his captain's chair and watched death racing toward his ship. The plasma bolt looked like green lightning, bright enough to hurt the eyes. Around the bridge, his crew worked with calm precision, despite knowing they might die in the next few seconds. The plasma hit the Valiant's shields, and something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking through and destroying the ship, the energy spread across an invisible barrier like water hitting glass. The shields glowed bright blue for a moment, then returned to normal. "Shields holding at 90%, reported Chief Petty Officer Kelly Smith from the defense station. Kelly was a small woman from Ohio who knew more about shield technology than anyone else on the ship. No damage to the hull. On the main screen, Jake could see the alien ships firing again. Dozens of plasma bolts and energy beams shot toward the human vessel from every direction. The Valiant sat in the center of a storm of deadly light, but the shields held against every attack. How is this possible? Dr. Martinez asked from her science station. Her instruments showed energy readings that should have destroyed their ship 10 times over. Their weapons are incredibly powerful. Admiral Brooks smiled grimly as she watched the tactical display. They are powerful, but they are using old technology. Our shields use quantum field manipulation. Their plasma weapons cannot break through. General Krex appeared on screen again, his yellow eyes wide with surprise. "What kind of shields are those? My weapons should have vaporized your ship." Jake stood up slowly, his confidence growing with each failed alien attack. "General, I tried to warn you. Human technology might look primitive, but looks can be deceiving." "Impossible," Krex snarled. "No species develops advanced shields before advanced weapons. It goes against all natural progression." Torres looked up from his weapons station with a wolfish grin. "Captain, all weapon systems are ready. Rail guns loaded with tungsten penetrators. Fusion missiles armed and targeted. The main cannon is charged and ready to fire." Jake nodded to his weapons officer. It was time to show these aliens what human engineering could really do. "Torres, target the smallest enemy ship. Fire 1 railgun round. Let us see how good their shields are." The railgun fired with a sound like thunder. A tungsten rod, the size of a telephone pole, shot out of the Valiant at 30% the speed of light. The round was so fast that it appeared on the alien sensors as just a brief flash of energy. The tungsten penetrator hit a Dominion cruiser that was half a mile long. The alien ship's shields tried to stop the projectile, but the dense metal rod punched through the energy barrier like it was not even there. The round went completely through the ship from bow to stern, leaving a perfectly round hole. For a moment, nothing happened. Then atmosphere began rushing out of the hole, carrying debris and bodies with it. Emergency lights flickered along the CA alien vessel's hull as it began spinning out of control. "One enemy ship disabled," Torres reported calmly. "They are trying to seal the breach, but they are losing life support fast." The alien fleet stopped firing. Jake could imagine the shock and confusion aboard their ships as they realized their shields could not protect them from human weapons. General Krex's face on the screen showed emotions that Jake recognized even on an alien face: surprise, fear, and growing anger. "That was a lucky shot," Krex declared, but his voice sounded less confident than before. "Your primitive projectile got through by accident. It will not happen again." Jake turned to Torres. "Fire a full spread of railgun rounds at different targets. Show them it was not luck." 6 railguns fired at once, their tungsten rounds invisible to the naked eye. 6 different alien ships suddenly sprouted holes in their hulls as the penetrators punched through shields and armor like they were made of paper. Atmosphere and debris fountained out of the wounds as alien crews fought to save their ships. "My God," Dr. Martinez whispered as she watched the destruction on her screens. "Our weapons are completely superior to theirs." General Krex's flagship began moving backward, putting more distance between itself and the human vessel. Other alien ships followed, their perfect formation breaking apart as captains realized they were not safe even at long range. "This is not possible," Krex said, his voice shaking with rage and fear. "Your weapons cannot be more advanced than ours. We have been spacefaring for 10,000 years. Admiral Brooks stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. "General, humans have been fighting wars for our entire history. We know how to build weapons that kill efficiently. Your people got soft ruling over weaker species." Jake decided it was time to end this demonstration before more aliens died. "Torres, load. 1 fusion missile. Target an empty area of space between us and their fleet." "Yes, sir." Fusion warhead armed and loaded. The missile launched from the Valiant's torpedo tube, a sleek white cylinder the size of a small car. It flew toward the space between the two fleets and detonated exactly where Torres had aimed it. For just a moment, a new star bloomed in the darkness, burning with the same nuclear fire that powered Earth's sun. The explosion was visible from millions of miles away. Every ship in the system registered the massive energy release as the fusion warhead turned matter into pure energy. When the light faded, a cloud of superheated gas marked where the missile had exploded. The alien fleet fell completely silent. Even their communications chatter stopped as commanders tried to understand what they had just witnessed. A weapon that could create a nuclear explosion in empty space was beyond anything in their experience. That warhead contained the equivalent of 50,000 tons of high explosive, Jake announced to the stunned alien fleet. "We have 300 more missiles just like it. Each one can destroy a ship the size of your flagship." General Krex stared at the dissipating fireball, his copper scales seeming to lose their color. You would use nuclear weapons in space combat? That is barbaric. Civilized species do not resort to such crude methods." Torres laughed from his weapons station. "General, there is nothing civilized about threatening to enslave an entire species. You want to see barbaric? Keep shooting at us." Jake raised his hand for silence. The demonstration was complete, and now it was time for diplomacy backed by superior firepower. "General Krex, I believe we have made our point. Human technology is different from yours, but it is certainly not inferior. Now, shall we discuss a peaceful resolution to this situation?" The alien general's image flickered on the screen as his ship continued backing away from the humans. Around him, Jake could see other aliens working frantically at control stations, probably trying to analyze the human weapons they had just witnessed. "This changes nothing," Krex finally said, but his voice lacked the confidence it had held before. "The Dominion has millions of ships. You cannot defeat us all." "Maybe not," Jake replied calmly. "But we can certainly defeat you and your fleet right here, right now. The question is, do you want to test us further, or would you prefer to return to your superiors with the knowledge that humanity is not as helpless as you thought?" The tactical display showed the alien fleet continuing to retreat, several damaged ships trailing debris and atmosphere. The demonstration had worked exactly as Jake had hoped. Sometimes the best way to avoid a war was to show the enemy that fighting would be far more costly than they expected. General Krex's image disappeared from the screen without another word. Within minutes, the entire Dominion fleet was jumping to hyperspace, fleeing the system as fast as their damaged ships could travel. Jake Morrison sat back down in his captain's chair and looked around at his crew. They had just fought humanities. First battle with aliens, and won decisively. But he had a feeling this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. The alien fleet stopped just outside weapon range. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as 50 alien ships formed a perfect circle around the Valiant. Each ship was at least twice the size of the human vessel, and some were 10 times larger. The largest ship sat directly in front of them, a massive thing that looked like a metal mountain floating in space. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission," Penny Park announced from his station. "General Krex wants to talk again." "Put him on screen," Jake ordered. He straightened his uniform and tried to look calm, even though his heart was beating fast. Behind him, Admiral Lisa Brooks moved closer, ready to support whatever decision he made. The screen flickered, and General Krex appeared again. This time, Jake could see more details. The alien was huge, probably 8 feet tall, with thick arms and claws instead of fingernails. Scars covered his copper scales, and his yellow eyes held no warmth at all. When he smiled, Jake counted at least 40 sharp teeth. "Human captain," Krex said through the translation system. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "I have studied your primitive vessel. Your weapons are crude, your armor is weak, and your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Yet you refuse to surrender. This amuses me." Jake stepped forward, making sure the alien could see him clearly on whatever screen he was using. "General Krex, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Valiant. We came here seeking peaceful contact with galactic civilization. We want to trade, to learn, to share knowledge. We do not want war." Krex laughed, a harsh sound that made several bridge officers wince. "Peace? Your ship carries enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Your species builds warships before exploring space. This tells me everything I need to know about humans." "Doctor." Susan Martinez moved to stand beside Jake. As the mission's expert on alien life, she had prepared for this moment her entire career. "General, perhaps we started badly. Let us try again. We are explorers and scientists. Yes, we carry weapons, but only for protection. In our travels through space, we did not know what we might find." The alien general studied her with interest. "A female speaks for your warriors? Interesting. Among my people, females stay silent while males decide important matters." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but kept his voice steady. "Among humans, both men and women serve equally. Dr. Martinez is one of our finest minds. She speaks with my full authority." "How strange," Krex replied. "No matter. Your customs will change once you become part of our empire. All client races must follow Dominion law." Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres stepped forward from his weapons station. The big Texan had been listening to the conversation with growing anger. "General, with respect, we are not interested in becoming anyone's client race. We are free people from a free world." Krex turned his attention to Torres, and his smile became even more frightening. "Free? There is no freedom in this galaxy. Human, there is only the Dominion and those who serve it. Your choice is simple. Surrender now and live as our servants, or be destroyed and serve no one." Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These people had volunteered for a mission they knew was dangerous. They had left families and friends behind to represent humanity among the stars. Every one of them was ready to fight, if necessary. "General," Jake said carefully, "you seem to think we are helpless because our technology looks different from yours. You might be making a mistake." "A mistake?" Krex roared with laughter. "I have conquered 47 primitive worlds for the Dominion. I know weakness when I see it. Your ship is made of simple metals and chemical rockets. My vessels use plasma weapons and quantum shields. You are insects compared to us." Chief Engineer Tony Wallace's voice came over the communication system. From the engine room. Captain, our fusion reactors are running at full power. All weapon systems are charged and ready. Just give the word, sir. Krex heard the transmission through the open channel. Fusion reactors? You still use such primitive energy sources. My ships draw power directly from artificial black holes. Your weapons cannot even scratch our shields. Dr. Martinez tried one more diplomatic approach. General Krex, surely there is room in this galaxy for different kinds of people. We do not want your territory or your resources. We only want to live in peace. Peace, Krex repeated the word like it tasted bad. There was peace in this galaxy. Before your species learned to travel between stars. Soon there will be peace again, with or without humans in it. The alien general leaned forward, his huge form filling the screen. I will give you one final chance, Captain Morrison. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be processed, and your ship will be added to my fleet. Refuse, and I will turn your vessel into dust and send recordings of your destruction back to your homeworld as a warning. Jake felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. Everything that happened next would determine not just the fate of his crew, but possibly the future of humanity itself. Earth had no idea that aliens existed, let alone that they might be hostile. The Valiant was alone, outnumbered 50-1, facing technology that seemed far superior to their own. But Jake could not become captain of Earth's first starship by backing down from impossible fights. He thought about his crew, about the families waiting for them back home, about the billions of humans who deserve to remain free. General Krex, he said in a voice that carried across the bridge and through space to the alien fleet, I have a counter-proposal. You and your ships can leave this system immediately and pretend you never saw us. In return, we will not demonstrate why challenging humanity is a very bad idea. A silence that followed lasted for 10 seconds. Then Krex began laughing so hard that his entire body shook. Did this primitive creature just threaten me? This will make an excellent story to share with my officers. The laughter stopped suddenly, and Krex's eyes became cold and deadly. You have made your choice, human. My fleet will destroy your ship and everyone aboard it. Then we will follow your course back to your homeworld and add your entire species to our empire. The transmission ended with a sharp click. On the tactical display, Jake watched as the alien ships began moving into attack formation. Energy signatures spiked as weapon systems powered up across the enemy fleet. All hands, battle stations, Jake announced calmly. This is not a drill. Prepare for combat. Admiral Brooks moved to the tactical station. Jake, are you sure about this? We are seriously outnumbered. Jake looked at his friend and smiled grimly. Lisa, they think they know everything about us based on how our ship looks. They are about to learn that humans are full of surprises. The first alien ship began charging its plasma weapons. In 30 seconds, the shooting would start, and the galaxy would learn what happened when someone threatened humanity. The stars looked different here. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Hughes Valiant and watched the alien sun grow larger on the main screen. After 3 years of traveling through space faster than light, they had finally reached their destination. This was supposed to be the center of all alien life in the galaxy. Jake was 42 years old and had served in Earth's Navy for 20 years before taking command of humanity's first starship. He had brown hair that was starting to turn gray, and tired eyes that had seen too many battles back on Earth. The weight of representing all humans pressed on his shoulders like a heavy coat. Sir, we are picking up lots of signals, said Chief Petty Officer Danny Park from his station. Danny was the ship's communication expert, a young man from California with quick fingers and an even quicker mind. There are dozens of ships out there, maybe hundreds. Jake nodded and looked around the bridge. These people were the best Earth had to offer. Admiral Lisa Brooks stood beside him, a tall woman with black hair and sharp green eyes. She had been Jake's friend for 15 years and his second in command for this mission. Dr. Susan Martinez sat at the science station, her dark eyes focused on the readings coming from her instruments. She was humanity's top expert on alien life, even though she had never seen any aliens before today. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres controlled the weapon systems from his post. Ryan was a big man from Texas who could hit a target at impossible distances. Chief Engineer Tony Wallace worked deep in the ship's engine room, making sure their new fusion engines kept running. The Valiant carried 847 people total, all of them volunteers who knew they might never see Earth again. "What kind of signals are we getting?" Jake asked Danny. "All different types, sir. Radio waves, laser communications, something that might be quantum transmissions. The computer is trying to make sense of it, but most of it is in languages we have never heard before." Dr. Martinez looked up from her station. "Captain, I am reading massive energy signatures from at least 40 different ships. Some of them are huge, bigger than our largest cities back on Earth. The technology readings are beyond anything we expected." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Earth scientists had known that aliens existed for 50 years, ever since they detected artificial radio signals from distant stars. But finding aliens and meeting them were two very different things. The Valiant was humanity's answer to the unknown, built over 10 years with the best technology Earth could create. The ship was not pretty. Unlike the smooth curves Jake imagined alien ships might have, the Valiant looked like what it was, a warship built by humans who knew how to fight. It was 800 meters long, covered in armor plating and weapon systems. The humans had learned from their wars on Earth that sometimes peaceful contact was not possible. "Sir, something big is moving toward us," Torres announced from his weapons station. His voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "Long-range sensors show a fleet of ships changing course to intercept us." "How many ships?" Admiral Brooks asked, moving closer to the tactical display. "At least 50, Mom. They are moving in formation, military style. I think they want to talk to us." Jake made his decision. They had come too far to turn back now. "Danny, prepare our first contact message. Send it on all frequencies, just like we practiced." The message had taken Earth's smartest people 5 years to create. It used mathematics and physics that should be the same everywhere in the universe. Simple pictures showed the solar system, Earth, and basic information about humans. Most importantly, it said that humans came in peace and wanted to be friends. "Message sent, sir," Danny reported. "Now we wait." The waiting was the hardest part. Jake watched the alien ships on the screen as they moved closer. Each ship was different from the others, like they came from different worlds or different species. Some looked like giant crystals floating through space. Others had flowing, organic shapes that seemed almost alive. A few had the hard edges of military vessels built for war. "Sir, we are receiving a response," Danny said, his voice excited. "The computer is working on translation, but it is coming through clearly. Someone out there has very powerful transmitters." The main screen flickered and changed. Suddenly, they were looking at something that was definitely not human. The creature was tall and covered in copper-colored scales that gleamed under bright lights. It had large yellow eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the words came out as harsh sounds that made Jake think of grinding metal. Ship's computer worked quickly to translate. A mechanical voice filled the bridge with words that chilled Jake's blood. "Unknown species, you have entered Dominion space without permission. This is General Krex of the Hegemony Alliance. You will surrender your vessel immediately for inspection and processing. Your species will be evaluated for integration into our empire as a client race. Resistance will result in the destruction of your ship and everyone aboard. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked at his officers and saw his own thoughts reflected in their faces. They had traveled across the galaxy, hoping to find friends, maybe even join some kind of galactic community. Instead, they had found an empire that wanted to make slaves of humanity. So much for peaceful first contact. Admiral Brooks said quietly. Dr. Martinez studied her readings with growing concern. Captain, I am detecting weapon systems on those ships. Very powerful ones. If they decide to attack, we will be in serious trouble. Jake thought about the 847 people under his command. They had families back on Earth, dreams and hopes for the future. He thought about Earth itself, a blue world full of billions of humans who had no idea that aliens even existed, let alone that those aliens might be enemies. Torres, what is our weapons status? He asked. All systems ready, sir. Railguns loaded, missiles armed, point defense systems online. If they want to fight, we can give them one. Sir, Danny interrupted, I am picking up more transmissions. These aliens are talking to each other, and the computer is starting to understand some of it. They are arguing about what to do with us. Jake nodded grimly. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of his ship, but possibly the future of humanity itself. He had hoped for peace, but he was prepared for war. The crew of the Valiant had trained for this moment, even though they had prayed it would never come. All hands, this is the captain, he announced over the ship's communication system. We have made contact with alien life. The situation is not what we hoped, but we are ready for whatever comes next. Stay sharp, follow your training, and remember that Earth is counting on us. The alien fleet continued moving closer, and Jake Morrison prepared to make the most important decisions of his life.